How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the 12th Man podcast. Today's episode, we're going to talk about a couple of the midweek matches that happened, and we're also going to have a Chelsea fan on to discuss Chelsea at the minute and the sacking of Frank and Tuchel's appointment. Well, first of all, I'm going to kick things off with I'm going to speak briefly on West Ham United, kind of another surprising team that are climbing up the table and are sitting in fourth at the minute. I think you just have to say fair play to David Moyes. I don't think anyone could have expected him to do such a good job like that at West Ham, where he failed before as manager. So you have to give credit where credit is due for West Ham there at the minute. But I'm going to ask you first, Shane, about Arsenal. They're kind of making you eat your words now at the minute.
Yeah, I think honestly, ever since I said that I can't see them battling, I know it's more towards the end of December, I said I can't see them battling for Champions League, and they are just every game they're getting on. Even yourself, I know you were saying that they've been playing good football, but they haven't faced tough opponents, and I think we can all both agree. Southampton are considered a tough opponent, definitely this season anyway, and they got a great 3-1 win over Southampton away. So
yeah,
hats off to them. They're playing great football. Arteta has them playing well. And again, I just want to mention Saka again. I think the kid's phenomenal. Like
he's really stepping up in these recent weeks. Like fair play to him.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, I know they think they have a couple of tough fixtures ahead. So it's a great start, and great way to finish the month of January for them.
Yeah, fair play. Gonna get on to the City game. Plenty of goals in that, but I guess you could say another VAR controversy. Kind of every week at this stage now, there's a VAR controversy, but
yeah.
But like putting that
aside, what did you think yourself?
Yeah. I don't think it should have been given as a goal. Like the whole West Brom team stopped. Like they saw the line out, put her flag up, and they stopped. And like it was kind of when they stopped, Cancelo like hit it. Although it was a great finish, like I would think the keeper was saving it anyway. So that's probably the way you could have looked at it. I was like, literally, there was no way the keeper was saving it. Like it was right in the top corner. But still, like they could have easily like had kept going and closed them down. I don't know what you make of it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think like once as a defender, once you see the flag going up, you do kind of, you stop. But like it's just you have to blame the linesman. Like they're told either not to put the flag up if it's close and they're unsure, and only to put the flag up if it's definite. And you can see with the linesmen, like the majority of them are waiting a good 10, 15 seconds after the ball is played, and like to throw the flag up. So I don't know why you put it up, so early. Like
I don't really understand that. Like you always see that happen. You see someone go in 1-on-1 with the keeper. The flag hasn't even gone up yet, and like you're like, is he offside?
Yeah.
And then they could put in the back of the net, and then the flag goes up. Then after the goal goes in, and sometimes it could be given as onside because the linesman got it wrong. But I don't know. Yeah. They really need to start.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a big talking point, but I think overall, I think we can both agree. Again, like there was no City weren't losing that game regardless. The talent they have, the talent they've had on display. Like Gundogan is just he's became De Bruyne for them.
Where's his goal scoring spree come from? Like he's literally like now he's known as a good like box to box midfielder, but he's adding goals to his game now, and it's only going to benefit.
He's become the kind of creativity creator as well. Like he stepped into De Bruyne's boots and he's scoring goals, and he's just brilliant on the ball. And obviously, like the players around him as well. Credit, I think Mahrez got back on the score sheet after a few quiet games for City, Sterling as well. So like they're moving well, City, and at the moment it doesn't look like De Bruyne is that big of a loss with the squad that they have and the players they have to fill in.
About their squad depth, and without doubt they're going to be probably going to start to put a statement in the league now and say,
absolutely.
Going on to the next game, the probably shock of the week, shock of the season, you could even say.
So far, anyway, probably,
obviously very disappointing to lose. Like, having gone on such a long run, like 13 games unbeaten, you're looking at this Sheffield fixture and you're like, guaranteed 3 points, like, the bottom of the league, and that's probably what the United players and Ollie was even thinking as well. They probably just got a bit too complacent and just thought this was a walk in the park, but that's not the way it is. But touching on some of the goals, like I felt they were very avoidable goals. Like the first one, corner in, De Gea not commanding his box. yeah, you could say you got a little nudge in the back, but you still want your keeper to command the box and punch that away, regardless of the coach. Like, he needs to be stronger, I think, to put that away. And then I knew once we went 1-0 down that it wasn't going to phase us. I knew we'd get a goal back eventually, whether that was 5 minutes later or 3 minutes later. I knew it was going to come eventually. And then there's a bit of controversy with the one that did come in the first half, but was ruled out for Maguire fouling Ramsdale, which I didn't think was a foul at all. Like, Maguire was clearly looking at the ball, and I don't really know how we could give that. But listen, there's always going to be controversy. There's always going to be bad decisions from referees, so you're going to have to just move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. Like, I think United are just renowned for going 1-0 down and coming back and winning games, and obviously Sheffield aren't renowned for winning games at all this season.
Yeah.
So I did say as soon as Sheffield scored, like, it's way too early in the game. Like, United have plenty of time. I knew United would score again, but they did really surprise me, and they have defended quite compactly. They did commit men forward at times, but every time they lost the ball, they were tracking back. They were defending for their lives for the last few games, and they got lucky enough to get that deflection for the second goal.
Yeah.
But again, it just shows how unpredictable
as well, though, that goal. Like, I think it came in off the right. Telles just nipped in front, or the attacker nipped in front, and like, it just fell to Maguire, and he kind of left it for De Gea, and then either De Gea had the chance to pick it up or just kick it out of play, and he just kicks it to the edge of the box to a Sheffield player, which was just, I thought, the wrong decision, and very, like, not, like, wouldn't expect an experienced keeper like David De Gea to be doing that, just kicking it no man's land, and then still, like, that could have been avoided, but listen, that's football.
Tough loss for all United fans, and obviously, I'm sure you saw yourself waking up this morning. I just wanted to ask you about the fact that Tuanzebe and Martial seem to be victims of racial abuse online there. What was it like to wake up to that?
Oh, like, it was upsetting to see, like, that I support a club with the same that has these fans that can just turn on their own players. And Axel Tuanzebe as well, one of our homegrown talents. Like, he came through the youth system since he was a kid, and for them to just turn them like that, racially abuse him, it's disgraceful. And there's clearly a problem in sport with it, but I just have no time for it at all with racially abusing players just because they had an off game. Like, just never.
It's terrible to see.
It should never happen. It's an absolute joke.
Yeah. It's just tough. It's tough to, like, obviously you can see when it happens live in games in the stadiums, stuff can be done, fans can be found out, they could be banned from coming to live games and stuff, but just online, like, I've seen myself with Liverpool players slated online, and like, it's like, players know when they have bad performances, but there's just no room for racial abuse whatsoever.
Yeah, no, it's shocking. Like, it's just stupid, really. Like, there's no point getting into it too much, because you could be here all day talking about how bad it is. Gonna move on to Liam coming on now, the Chelsea fan. So we're now joined by Liam Fannin here. We're going to talk everything Chelsea in the last while. I'm going to start off with a question, Liam. So, what's your opinions? What's your thoughts on the whole situation?
Yeah, mixed, like, roller coaster of emotions, really, just with the last 6 weeks. Obviously, really disappointed for Lamp's sake, because, I mean, I feel like we've been here before, but the board have just cut his legs from under him, really. Like, they've taken advantage of the fact that there's no players and there's no fans in the stadium, taking advantage of the fact that, I mean, with such little experience behind Lamps, they couldn't go back against that decision once they made it. And I'm disappointed mostly because I was led to believe, along with many other Chelsea fans were led to believe, that this was a project and that they were going to give Lamps the time, because, like, everything before, like, from everything I was reading over the summer, it was all this idea was being said that, like, for once the club was on an even keel, that from Frank Lampard to Petr Cech, who's sporting director, to Marina Granovskaya, who runs the day to day of Chelsea. Basically, she is the Iron Lady of Chelsea. Like, and then Abramovich, it was being it the image being given was that for once everybody's on an even keel. They're all working, singing off the same hymn sheet, and that they're actually going to go ahead and do this project. And now I just feel just disappointed is the biggest emotion, just because evidently that wasn't true, and the board showed their true colours, which unfortunately is just them being ruthless and them not given the adequate time, or not living up to what they once expected.
Yeah, so obviously saying that, like, you thought that the board and everyone in the hierarchy were all on the same page, but obviously we saw the articles coming out and the sources saying that there was more stuff in the dressing room. There was players unhappy in the dressing room. So my question to you is, like, do you think, like, we all, like, obviously Frank is an experience, like the 1 year at Derby. Do you reckon that was just one step too far, trying to deal with a dressing room full of internationals and players that, like, senior professionals that need game time? Do you reckon that was a bit close?
Look, anybody could tell you don't need to be a sports fanatic or a football fanatic to tell you that Lamps got that job too early. 1 year at Derby is not a CV. That's barely a CV to get the Leeds job, let alone the Chelsea job. Like, that unfortunately isn't enough. Now, that being said, they still went. At the time it suited both parties. Well, it suited both parties because we obviously had the transfer ban. We lost Eden Hazard. Like that, I cannot emphasize enough how much of an impact that was to Chelsea. Like, you're talking about, and I know some you might argue this with me, the Premier League's best player, heading above best player in the Premier League. You take him out of the squad, and suddenly, although there's Champions League football, there's no transfer ban, there's no Hazard, and you have to then compete against all these other teams that have since recruited. So bringing Lampard in at that time, although he had little experience, it suited Chelsea to bring him in. But when he came in, it's not like a Derby team that he's coaching. It's not, it's not Richard Keogh at the back. Like, he's dealing with all these other personalities, and he's dealing with all these other dealing with all these other agents and stuff like that. And to be fair, in its first year, looking back, it worked to some degree. In the first year, he managed to create like a siege mentality, basically, because everyone else, all the so-called experts were telling you Chelsea wrote off, not a chance, they're not going to finish. People, like, most things, the majority of the predictions that I saw for last year had Chelsea finishing sixth and all, like nowhere near it. So what he did by bringing through the youth and galvanizing the rest of the squad that year, maybe his lack of experience, I think, suited that year because it was such a weird year. I think that definitely, and in hindsight, definitely did. It suited that year. But when you then drop in five, six, even 7 of the squad, about 6, 7 players you drop in, then all these new different personalities, all these different so-called superstars that you put in there, like, you don't have. And it's something that even myself and George were talking about after Lamps, unfortunately, once the news broke. If it would have been easier for Lampard if he had a Drogba, Frank Lampard, John Terry, Peter Cech, Ashley Cole spine in his team to bring in these new players and go, look, this is the standards that you cannot go below. Like, if you drop below these standards, then before even the manager gets onto you, the players are onto you, the dressing room's onto you. Like, I know people always, like Fergie would always go on the whole idea of the dressing room ran itself. The dressing room ran itself in Chelsea back in the years of there being a new manager every year, every 2 years, because they still won all of those things, and there were such big players and big time senior players in the team. Having such an inexperienced manager, coupled with the fact that you're bringing in so many new players, new to the league, not only new to the league, new to the country. Like, me and Kai Havertz are the same age. I'm 3 months older than the chap. Like, the abuse and the struggles that guy has had, I just find it mind-boggling. But like, to come over and to leave your own country in the middle of COVID, Like all of these things need to be taken into account of, and it unfortunately for Lance, that's literally what's done him in. Because if these players hit the ground running, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We'd be talking about, geez, Frankie Lance, he could be the next big, British manager. Now it's back to, Brendan Rodgers is the best British manager, and Lance was good, but hope he gets a new job. So again, I am disappointed for him, but like in a lot of ways, he was set up to fail, I think, by the board, and that's kind of. That's proven. It sounds ironic when you bring in to spend 200 million. How's a guy set up to fail? But that can be irrelevant sometimes,
You need time, like when you're spending that amount of money and you're bringing in dozens of players. Of course, you need time for players to gel together and stuff. And obviously, COVID doesn't help with players that are new coming in and then missing a couple of weeks. And there's obviously this year more than any, there's so many different things to consider. But yeah, I'd have to agree. Like, obviously, if the signings hit the ground running, we wouldn't be having this conversation. No. But in fairness, like a few of them have been disappointing, and like I know Timo Werner, like his confidence, we said last week, must be at rock bottom. He's getting into some good positions, and he can't seem to finish things and stuff like that. And
you can't touch. Yeah. You can't take a touch.
Yeah,
it's mental.
Like look at him before he signed for Chelsea. He's banging in goals left, right, and centre. So
I started doing it recently just because of the abuse I've been getting from the lads. I've had to stick on Werner's highlights and Kai's highlights and stuff like that from the Bundesliga just to remind myself that there's actually players here and that this is a bad situation that we're in, because it's nearly uncanny. Like I feel, because at the start, to be fair to Werner, when he arrived initially, he was looking sharp. The runs he was made, like he had just gotten into the team, fair enough, and it looked like the rest of the team hadn't really molded to him yet, because he was making like quick runs. I remember even first game against Brighton, belted it down, unbelievable pace, got that foul, and he was constantly on the shoulder. He was constantly just looking like a menace the whole time. Like, and I thought to myself, grand. As once kind of Ziyech comes in, gets the overlapping balls, once kind of people start fine-tuning their game to team, this fella's going to bag goals. Like I hate to say it, I have several bets from the start of the season with the lads that Timo's bagging 20 plus. I even have one specifically with Nicky that he'll get a brace at Anfield. Like these none of these things look like they're going to come to fruition now, and it's just scary. It's scary to think about it, because he was like, there's no, like, people will always say, oh well, he hasn't done it in the Premier League, he hasn't done this, but prior to his arrival he was at the elite level. Like when you got the top 5 goal scorers in the world, he was number 4, I think, behind Messi, Ronnie and Lewandowski. Like, come on, like how does someone go from that? Like fair enough fair enough you're in England, the weather's different, there's bigger defenders in front of you and all that, but that shouldn't have such a drastic effect that someone can't even take a touch going down the wing, like,
Yeah, but do you think it was hard for him? Like, obviously he came in the £50 million signing to be the main striker, and then he comes in and he's thrown out on the wing, like.
Yeah, that, to be fair, definitely didn't do Lamps any favours with his I don't know what's the right way to put it, is, I know, obsession with sticking Timo on the wing. That was the best way to put it. But yeah. I think personally, I understood sometimes kind of farming him out on the wing. Like, not that I liked it, but like even when he wasn't, like, some of the things that he was doing wrong, right? Like, fair enough, taking heavy touches and not being able to get by someone. Like, he's pretty, to be fair to him, like, he's a deadly player, but in terms of beating people, it's fairly one-dimensional. Like, he's not going to pull out any mad tricks. He's kind of a kick it forward merchant and then run past you. Like,
that's not his game, and we saw that at Leipzig as well. Like, he needs to be in and around the 18-yard box.
Off a big man. We could do that whole. We have plenty of Poulsen replacements that we could use. Like, he could play easily behind Giroud or even behind Tammy. Like, him and Tammy were striking up some decent stuff at the start. Yeah. But yeah, I guess that's partly to do with it. Was maybe it was Lamps was feeling the pressure to obviously have these fellas in the team, and he saw what Timo could bring. But then I guess he wanted to have him in at all costs. But at the start, we weren't, injury-wise, right? There was no Pulisic. at the start, and there was no Ziyech, so he was quite fond of putting Timo out at the beginning then to try to make up the numbers. And to be fair to him, at that time, Timo was still delivering in terms of goals and assists, like, and he was still looking pretty good. But once he got found out that he doesn't have a huge amount, like, when I say found out, once we stopped playing to his strengths, that's when his form dipped, and there's both sides are guilty. Like, Lamps should have recognized that sooner. Timo should have kind of tried to put his head in a bit more and reminded himself of the player that he is. But yeah, it never. I personally would have, if he had to go on the wing, I would have put him on the right and kept Pulisic on the left, because Pulisic last year on the left, like, fella was one of the best players in the league after the restart. Like, and I know even this year he hasn't been up to standard, but like, no, I never personally, that was always one that frustrated me, seeing Timo out on the left. Like, God love him.
Yeah, so I mean, like, coming into the season, like, what was your minimum expectations after the money spent?
Coming into this season, I must have been the most unsufferable cunt to be around, man. Like I genuinely thought I was singing. I was in dreamland. Like, I thought this was it. I thought we're like, without it, like, top four wasn't even in. Like, top four was a guarantee at the start of the season. I was thinking, if we had managed to finish level on points with United last season with no recruitment, even like just purely off chancing our way to top four, bringing in the likes of a potentially 30 goal a season man and Timo Werner, bringing in Ziyech. Not that we need a Kai, but for hell, look, he's available. Go get him. Stick Kai Havertz in there as well. Kai Havertz had, up until he came to the Premier League, he was only behind Ronaldo for goals and assists in that calendar year. So, like, he was playing at a crazy level as well before he arrived. But I mean, that's the thing about it is that although all these new signings came in, unfortunately, as it seems, we didn't have the man in. We didn't have somebody experienced enough in place to be able to gel this all together, and not only gel it all together, keep everybody happy and stuff like that, and on an even keel. Because, like, I know it's even Chelsea took advantage of the fact that it was a buyer's market, and so they could, like, Timo, for the price he went, we got him for 47 million. Like, that's pretty cheap for a striker in the current standings. And likewise, Ziyech was like 37 million. That's cheap enough. Like, we brought all these players in, and fair play to them. Like, they got them in. Like, they did the hard work to get them in. But it was so hard to get rid of players, and that meant that come the start of the season, the squad was just so bloated and had 5 centre backs. Tomorrow's only after going on. We had 5 centre backs for so long. So to even if you were Thomas Tuchel at the start of the season, you would have had issues with keeping everybody happy. Take that away, you're Frank Lampard, who only has 2 years experience at the top level of managing. It was impossible to kind of keep everybody happy and keep things and keep expectations up. And ever since that Everton game, literally, we've literally been on a downward trajectory, and it's literally just crashing the entire time. So I guess, in a long way, to answer your question, at the start of the season, I thought we'd be second or third, maybe even second. But when pretty much, and when we beat Leeds 3-1, fuck that. When we beat Sevilla, after having made all those changes, in the Champions League, I thought we were on for big things, but now top 4 would do me perfectly, and on top of that, I think Tuchel could do a little cup run, not necessarily Champions League, but FA Cup. I think he could do a few bits. I think that squad have a kind of the bit between their teeth now, having lost in those circumstances to Arsenal last year. So I wouldn't be surprised if he went on a bit of a cup run, but top 4 would be my ambition at the moment.
Yeah, so moving on to now, actually. So I saw a quote from Julian Nagelsmann, the Leipzig manager, and he said with Tuchel, either he gets along great with everyone or he gets along badly with everyone. So there's no middle ground with him.
Yeah.
So with the Chelsea board and owners, we know what they're like to work with. Like, how do you see that panning out?
Sounds like the script for a movie, man, doesn't it? Like, it's, to be fair, now, I personally, I quite like Tuchel. And a couple of years ago, when it was a toss-up between him and Conte to come in, I was actually looking for Tuchel to come in. I thought he was younger, more progressive, less pragmatic, like what Conte did. Now, obviously, Conte won the league and everything like that, so fair play to him. But, you know, history dictates didn't last too long. Tuchel coming in now, as devastated as I am, like as devastated as I am for Lampard, like that I'm kind of putting that to one side. I am excited to see what Tuchel can do, purely on the basis of the experience that he has, number one, the style of football that he plays, how he's able to, like, as he said, there's every chance. I feel like this will go well for 18 months, maybe 2 years. 3 years is looking past 3 years, like, for any Chelsea fan, is just wishful thinking. But I do get the impression that he could strike a chord with a few of these players, and he definitely could get things going. Because even last night, like, although it was really frustrating, like it was 0-0 to Wolves, you could tell something. You could tell something had changed, bar the fact that the manager had been sacked. Because when a manager gets sacked, right, what goes up? Pressing might go up, distance coverage, stuff like that. Fair enough, you'll have more energy. But the way we kept the ball and the tactical instruction he was given to Callum Hudson-Odoi and stuff like that, like, God love Lamps, man. His body language in the last six from Everton onwards was just him like this, looking petrified on the sideline, because unfortunately, and it really pains me to say it, he was out of his depth to a certain degree. Looking at Tuchel last night, it was just refreshing to see somebody so kind of like sure themselves and constantly just constantly analyzing everything and going over every little fine detail. Like, I understand, like, I know people like Chelsea try to get Nagelsmann, like they spent time trying to sound out Nagelsmann before the Tuchel deal went ahead. If I had the option between Nagelsmann or Tuchel, although Tuchel is like more fireworks and it could go wrong, I would have picked him personally. Ever since United peppered Leipzig 5-0 and Tuchel had that wedding singer thing on, that suit on in Old Trafford, I just haven't been able to take him seriously since then. So I would have gone for Tuchel if I had the choice. If I was Marina Granovskaya, I would have gone for Tuchel then.
Yeah,
I'll give my opinion on it.
Sure.
Obviously as a Liverpool fan, I think harsh on Frank. I think everyone can agree. Spent a lot of money, but overall needs to be given more time. Was he wrong to take the job? Absolutely not. I think what kind of superstar is going to say no to managing your dream job that early in your career? You know what I mean? So you can't blame him there. Obviously, I think if Klopp left in the summer and Steven Gerrard was offered the job at Liverpool, he'd take a hand off. I think Rooney would be the same with Manchester United, regardless of how early it is in their career. I think it's their dream job. They're just after finishing a professional football career. The money's there. They're obviously going to say yes. I do think given to the end of the season, with the way Chelsea have been in the last 6, 7, 8 games, I don't think. I know you optimistically you'd like to see them make top 4, but just with the way every other team in the Premier League is playing at the moment, I can't see them making top 4. I can't see Tuchel basically getting them ahead of where Lamps might have gotten them ahead of after just coming in this first year. I think maybe in the future, absolutely. But with regards to Tuchel, I think great man to come in for the job. I think he speaks every single language every single language that's spoken on the Chelsea team. I like him personally. I think I liked him at Dortmund. He gave a lot of time to the youth players. He brought through some absolutely brilliant players, and he let go of a lot. Like, if you look at the players that he sold, Pulisic, Ousmane Dembele, Aubameyang, Gundogan. Like, look at Gundogan. He's absolutely lighting up the league at the moment with Manchester City. Like, so. Yeah, overall disappointed as a neutral to see Frank go, but I'll leave it at that. I think Tuchel is a good man to bring in.
And like you see people saying, yeah, he's coming from PSG and all, but like, if there's any PSG manager that can go to any other club in the world based off what they've done with that club, is him. He's the only one to get them to a Champions League final. So I think all this stuff with like, it's the French league or whatever, like, is a lot of crap really. Like, he got them to a Champions League final and gave Bayern a run for their money. So I think there is a good manager in there. Only obviously time will tell. Anyway, I think we're going to wrap this video up, lads. Liam, thanks very much for coming on. You are pleasure to have you on. To everyone watching, please leave a like and subscribe to us. It really help us to what we want to achieve with this. Stay tuned and see you on the next one. Thanks very much.